Welcome into a Thursday edition of the Friday edition of the Desmond Johnson Show. You're probably asking yourself, why is he doing that? Well, it's because it's huge news coming out of Chapel Hill. Former NFL coach, 8-time Super Bowl champion Bill Belichick has signed to become the next head football coach at the University of North Carolina. I had to go grab my friend Bynum from the Tar Heel Tribune to give us all the ups and downs in terms of how did this even happen? Like what like what is going on? There's a press conference for 2:00 on Thursday where I assume they'll be introducing Coach Belichick to the masses. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of that. Plus, Carolina Hoops is in action. They've got LaSalle on Saturday, so RL can help us preview that. And we'll talk a little bit about how all this kind of connects over to them missing out on the number one prospect in 2025 and why they may have missed out on him and how that connects back to Bill Belichick. So it's a Carolina episode on the Desmond Johnson Show. Pull up a chair. Let's go ahead and get it. Let's run the intro. This is the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city needs that. I've been #1, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whacked. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And welcome into a brand new edition of the Desmond Johnson Show, coming to you a day early, Thursday, December the 12th, 2024. Normally we're Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, but too much stuff going on in Chapel Hill to wait till Friday to get this out to you. Joined by my good buddy RL Bynum from the Tar Heel Tribune. It's a Tar Heel episode. Lots of Tar Heel news we'll get into here in just a bit. The Desmond Johnson Show is brought to you by the Emergency Responders Credit Union in Winston-Salem. If you are an emergency responder working in the Triad, looking for financial services tailored to you, check out Emergency Responders Credit Union. They are located on Link Road over in Winston-Salem. They'll be able to help you with all of your financial needs. RL, let's just get into it. The big news dropping Wednesday night: University of North Carolina signing former Patriots head coach Bill Belichick to become the next head football coach at UNC. Where were you when you found out that Bill Belichick was the new head coach of the team that you cover for the Tar Heel Tribune? And your initial thoughts when this there was a whole lot of smoke here all week long, really, but when this became official, what was your initial thoughts?
I was amazed that it's happening. It's really hard to believe. I mean, Carolina football was the lead story on SportsCenter at 6. Has that ever happened?
No,
I don't know.
Other than maybe the Marvin Austin scandal way back with Butch Davis and all that stuff. Maybe I don't even think it led then, but yeah, you're right.
I mean, what a week! I covered the women's soccer team winning their 23rd national championship on Monday, and that became official an hour before I saw the women's basketball team go to 10-1 for the best start in 3 years, and now Bill Belichick. I mean, it. You know, for years people have said that Carolina football is a sleeping giant. But, you know, with this financial commitment of hiring Belichick, it's about to wake up and be a factor nationally. I mean, and the standard's going to be different. 8-4 is great before, but that's no longer going to be acceptable with this sort of financial commitment. Contending in or winning the ACC, making the college football playoff, contending for a national title. Those are the new standards, and that's going to mean that when they say it's a sellout at Kenan Stadium, it's actually going to be a capacity crowd. I've seen a lot of quote-unquote sellouts recently, including NC State game, and there are a lot of empty seats. I think that's going to change. And I think Belichick is going to make UNC an attractive portal destination because all these players want to make the NFL, and here's a guy who can help them get there. This commitment by Carolina, they've said they're all in before, but they're really all in now. This has taken the Deion Sanders Colorado experiment, which has proved to be pretty successful, to another level. and with a legendary coach, it'll be fun to watch. It could fail, but even if it fails, it's going to bring the program a lot of attention.
That's my thing, because people are like, well, what if it fails? He's never done this before at the college level. I'm like, so what if it does? Like, it won't put Carolina in any different position than where they already are. And looking around the landscape, there was no bigger hire that they could have that would have this much of a splash, to your point, in terms of leading off Sports Center. It's literally all over the sports. Like, North Carolina football is like the lead story in sports like right now because of this. And I got to admit, Ariel, I'm really intrigued by this. People that know me, they know that I'm a North Carolina Tar Heel fan. I was born that way. My father's house is painted Carolina blue. I was indoctrinated into the Carolina thing. I love North Carolina. I also hate Bill Belichick. I'm not a fan. I've never have been. Ever since his Patriots beat my Panthers in Super Bowl 38, I've never really been much of a Bill Belichick fan. But it's the same kind of, it's like it's a mutual hate. Well, not a mutual hate. It's like I can't think of the word I'm looking for here. It's kind of the way I feel about Coach K, where over years you kind of grow this respect for them. It's like a hateful respect. I guess that's one of the best way to put it, where you respect what they do, you respect their resume, you respect what they bring to the game. You might not necessarily like them because they're your natural rival or whatnot. And I was telling my friend Chris Lee and Dennis Cox, both from WRL, were supposed to be on with us today, and literally got yanked out by WRL like 10 minutes before they were going to come on to help cover this. The press conference at 2:00 this afternoon, and RL graciously stepped in. But they were on this as well. And they were kind of like, it's almost like if Coach K went to go coach the Charlotte Hornets like next year, like I wouldn't know what to do with my hands. Like literally, like I don't know how to react to it. This is similar to that, and it took me a couple of days to kind of come to terms with it and what it means. For starters, Belichick is 73, 72. Yeah, Coach Mac Brown was 73. Belichick,
so they went younger.
He's 8 months younger. So age has nothing to do with this here. That's not why they let Mac Brown go. I am very, very interested in terms of what this does for recruiting, because it's one thing to have, Mac Brown call your house and ask to speak to your mom and, come over and sit in your living room. It's a whole other thing to have Bill Belichick call and be in your living room for a 17, 18-year-old kid for him to be like, we want you to come play for the Tar Heels, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's even going to be his position in this program. The way it sounds like it's going to be set up, it almost sounds like it's going to be set up like a corporation where Belichick will be the top of this tree and he'll have all this stuff in place thanks to North Carolina's newfound commitment to NIL and everything else for college football, which we'll talk about in a second, will spill over, I would assume, to other sports. But I'm intrigued by the idea that he can bring in probably his son, Steve Belichick, who's the defensive coordinator at the University of Washington right now, bring him in and kind of groom him as a coach in waiting. So for those that are like, oh, he's too old, they kind of already have a succession plan in place. I think that's what kind of sold Carolina on all this. And the attention to detail, the full detail of what Belichick is saying he would do in terms of turning Carolina into a football school. And it made me think of, could his style work in college football? And I'm like, yeah, we just saw it work for 20 years with Nick Saban. Like, they're literally the same guy. They're literally like the same, like twins almost, in terms of like how they are. They talk to each other.
They work together with the Cleveland Browns.
They work together. They're from the same coaching tree. Like, literally, they're from the same coaching tree. And we just watched Nick Saban have that same success in Alabama, doing it just like this. So I kind of picture Belichick maybe leaning on Saban to, like, hey, how would you set this up? How would you do this? Would you be interested in a consulting role? Like that kind of thing. That it opens up that door. Like so it opens up all these doors where now, if Carolina's going to put the money behind it in NIL, because they have lost some players, we'll get into the basketball stuff here in just a bit, because they've been basically outbid because of NIL here recently. How do you think that's going to affect that on the football side? Because it looks like Carolina, one of the things I saw, they're willing to dump like $20 million into their NIL fund to help go secure players for Belichick. So they'll be kind of running this like a semi-pro football team. Your thoughts on that? Because to me, that changes the narrative, not just at Carolina, but college football completely, because there's not a lot of schools doing this, right?
Yeah. It's if Carolina had a limited salary cap last season, and now they've gone all Steinbrenner, and they're going to be splashing the money around. And, this really, as I was saying, this is a story beyond hiring a coaching legend, because this is a financial commitment to be a national player that's going to sustain itself after Belichick leaves and whatever happens after that. I mean, it's so, and for next season, the schedule is fairly manageable. There's really nothing tough out there other than maybe TCU or Clemson. I mean, the path is there to get the college football playoff. And I would throw this out there. I would not assume that UNC's quarterback next season will be either Max Johnson or Jacoby Criswell. Anything's possible. Anything might happen. You saw what happened at Duke, where basically they told their two quarterbacks, hey, you're probably not going to play. And then they brought in the top quarterback in the portal from Tulane. I think that's something that might happen.
I'm glad you mentioned quarterback, because actually I'm actually wearing East Forsyth shirt now. The East Forsyth quarterback here in Kernersville, Bryce Baker, 4-star quarterback, is committed to Carolina. And from my understanding and speaking with his family, that they were waiting to see who Carolina hired before they decided what they're going to do. Bryce actually did not sign last week his letter of intent because all this was going on. There was no coach there. I know LSU and Penn State were actually sniffing around, wanting to talk to him as well in this wild, wild west of college football, where you can commit someplace and still end up someplace else. I have not seen, I just went to go check to be sure while we were doing this. I've not seen anything regarding Bryce deciding to go someplace else, do something else. But I can fully see a situation where Bryce is the starting quarterback for North Carolina next year as a true freshman coming in. Like, again, a 4-star player coming out of North Carolina his senior year. Their year just ended last Friday, losing to Weddington in the Western Regional 4A semifinals that we covered here at Tobacco Road. But yeah, being close to home, that'll be one of the first things that Bill Belichick will have to do as soon as this press conference is over, is probably give our guy a call and be like, hey, what's happening? When we get into work, that kind of thing. There's an article out right now where it's saying Bryce Baker's eager to get that call from Bill Belichick. So it sounds like the Baker family are still committed to the University of North Carolina, and just kind of want to see what the game plan is regarding Bryce with Bill going forward. If anything, I would think they might be more excited, because now all of a sudden you're working with a guy that worked with Tom Brady for 20 years. Like, you're working with a guy that's got 8 Super Bowl rings. Like, he knows what it takes to play in the NFL. He's been around it his entire life. I do like the idea, for those that don't know, when we talked about this on Tuesday's show with David Glenn and Jim Zoki from the Panthers Radio Network, there's a North Carolina connection with Bill Belichick and the school. His dad, Steve Belichick, coached here in the 50s. And there's a picture circulating around social media, it's not hard to find, of a 1-year-old Bill Belichick sitting kind of in the stands in the press book or whatnot they had for that year or whatever. He has probably no recollection of it because he's probably 1 year old, 2 years old. But once I found that out, and I think they were saying that when he was on campus, one of the things he used to like to say is Duke sucks. That sold me. That sold me right there. I'm like, oh, okay. So he understands the assignment. So just to get the nuts and bolts of it here, he signs a 5-year deal. I saw rumors that it's as high as $10 million per season, which would put him like 3rd in salary in college football behind what's his name at Georgia, and there's one more. There's 2 that were ahead of him, I believe, last time I looked. If that's the case, they didn't have official numbers out, but I was seeing it was around $10 million per. And from the university, statement from Belichick, quote, "I'm excited for the opportunity at UNC Chapel Hill. I grew up around college football with my dad and treasured those times. I've always wanted to coach in college, and now I look forward to building the football program in Chapel Hill. The 6-time Super Bowl champion has never coached at the collegiate level in any capacity, and he will take this over." Was this the best deal out there for him? Because I don't think there was any, from me covering NFL, I don't think there was really any NFL deals out there for him. Atlanta turned him down last year. I don't think Dallas is going to open. I don't think place like Cincinnati is going to open. It sounded like he wasn't going to have full autonomy any place he went in the pros. And this kind of started opening up his eyes, especially with NIL and the portal and everything else, where college football is turning into pro games, so to speak, but maybe even easier to maneuver around. Do you think he looked at this as an opportunity to kind of rewrite or add a chapter to his legacy? Because what if we're sitting here 10 years from now, RL, and we're looking at college football and the way it's run, and everybody's got a GM and everyone's doing this and that, and we go, wow, all this started with Bill Belichick. Like, Bill Belichick did this. Like, that's kind of the door we're standing in front of right now. What are your thoughts on all this and the way this is all turning college sports on its head? Because we just had last week, Stanford announced Andrew Luck as their new GM for their program. So schools are starting to notice this might be the way to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way to go. You have to run your program more like an NFL team. And you were talking about those numbers. To put it in perspective, Jeff Collins was the highest paid employee on the UNC campus this school year at $1 million a year. So that will give you a little perspective on the financial differences. And I'm sure that Belichick's staff is going to be paid better than that. So yeah, it's crazy. And traditionalists are going to really not like it, but you got to get on the bus or you're going to be left behind. It's the only way to do it now, because kids, used to be able to sell the beautiful university, the campus, and the Carolina. Well, maybe not the Carolina tradition so much in football as it was in basketball, but you can't do that now. They want the money. Where's the money?
Yeah,
you got to have the money, and then they've got the funds to lure these folks, and they got a coaching legend come and get the money and be under the tutelage of a coaching legend. I mean, that combination seems like it's going to be pretty potent.
And it's not like he's so far removed from the NFL where today's kids don't know who he is. Like,
you're locking up.
Whereas Jordan stopped playing in 2003. Like, you weren't alive yet. Like Belichick just stopped coaching like 2 years ago. Like, you literally, a 17, 18-year-old football player, high school player, or 23-year-old player in the portal, they know who Bill Belichick is. Like, they know who he is. Like, they are well aware. Every Super Bowl they've watched in their lifetime, half of them have had him on the other sideline coaching in the game. Like, they know who he is. So to get that call, like, from him, like, hey, I want to talk to you. We want to offer you scholarship. It's a money situation. It seems like he's going to have it set up just like the NFL, where he'll have a GM, someone that handles their quote unquote NIL cap, like you had it earlier in the segment, where they figure out where it's going to get dolled out to where. And this is where I want to spill this over into basketball, because while I have you on, of course, Carolina Hoops is this Saturday, taking on LaSalle. I'm curious in terms of it's Saturday at 4:00, by the way, and I believe it's on one of the ESPN channels. But how do you think this? It's on which what? It's on the CW. Okay. Oh, well, that's good to know. So it's a CW ACC game, one of those ACC extra games that the league got from the CW last year. It is a 4:00 tip off on a Saturday. I'm curious. I know because you're real heavy on the basketball side with the women and the men. How do you think this might affect the recruiting for basketball? Because just earlier this week, really just a day or two ago, the number one pick in or the number one prospect in the 2025 class, AJ DeBansa, had received $5 million NIL offers from Carolina and Alabama before he ultimately decided to go to BYU, which actually changes a lot of thoughts on college basketball recruiting, where now it's kind of like who's the highest bidder, because I can't think of a situation where a player would have picked BYU over North Carolina and Alabama to play basketball. But it was $5 million basically with an NIL money. It's noted from Matt Norlander possibly to be the biggest deal for any college basketball player in history. And it seems like we're going that way. Tie this all in a neat bow for me. How do you think this landing Bill Belichick, how has it changed the perception of North Carolina in terms of the NIL game, not just in football, but across all sports, including men's basketball?
It probably signals that the men's basketball program needs to change the structure. Duke already has a general manager. Carolina men's program doesn't have a general manager, and I think you've got to have that now. You need the funds to offer these top prospects in the off season. I mean, look at what Carolina's issues are now. They don't have a dominant post player. They're essentially playing 3-on-5 a lot of times, depending on the guards, because the centers don't have any presence. Well, it's not as if Hubert Davis didn't try. He tried to get Danny Wolf, and he ended up going to Michigan. They tried to get Cliff Amore. He ended up going to Alabama. And then now AJ DeBansa goes to BYU. And God love Hubert. I couldn't agree more with what he's saying with his pitch. his pitch is the Carolina tradition, wear the Carolina uniform, follow the footsteps of legendary Michael Jordan, and you can be a legend too. All that's true. But for kids today, that's not enough. They want to know that you're going to give them the amount of money that they're going to be offered in other places if they're a top-level talent. So, Huber can keep making that pitch, but there's got to be money behind it, or they're going to continue to miss with these big prospects, and Carolina's going to be left behind. So, I think the men's program really needs to get going with that structure, with a general manager who can be like an NBA general manager. Let Huber coach and recruit also, but let the general manager handle a lot of these other financial things. And that's got to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that, because you can't do the last couple of years of Roy and the first couple of years of Hubert, where he's pulled in 5 stars like Ian Jackson. It feels like the majority of those classes are 4-star guys that grow into something. RJ Davis, that kind of player where he comes in as a 4-star, maybe not as highly recruited, but still a top 100 kid. And over the span of 4-5 years becomes an All-American. That model may or may not work. It's slower. But college basketball is older now. The past 4 or 5 years, the national champions have been older teams. UConn, Kansas, whoever you want to use. They've been older teams, and they've used the portal to become older teams. So younger teams like a Duke, they might have 6-star freshmen on it. Yeah, they have a lot of talent, but in the end, they kind of burn out because they don't have the experience. And Carolina has been one of the more experienced teams over the past couple of years, especially when you have an Armando Bacot there for a million years. It kind of tilts the the average in terms of like your age of your roster. This year, they don't have that necessarily. And you're right. They have no one in the middle. I think there was high hopes for Jalen Washington to kind of step into that role, but it's pretty painfully clear he's not that kind of player. So what can they do in season to fix this? I like the 3-headed monster at guard that they have with Seth Trimble, who has tripled his scoring average over the past between the past 2 seasons. And honestly, he's been the most consistent player Carolina has in the games I've watched them play so far. Between Seth Trimble, Elliot Cadeau, who's had some fouling trouble the past couple of games when I've watched, where he's gotten foul trouble early and turnover. And, of course, RJ Davis, who kind of started on a slump this season, seems like he's kind of shooting himself out of it. I like that kind of lethal weapon 3 kind of situation they got going on there. But they have nothing really concrete in the middle. Covering this team, what would you do roster-wise? Like, excluding those 3. Those 3 are going to start. What would you do down in the paint with those other 2 positions, whether it's forward or center or whatever? Is there somebody that's not getting enough minutes you feel like they probably should take a look at? Is there someone who's out there that they need to run the ball through? What would you do with this post situation with Carolina basketball right now?
Give me 1 second to stop this beeping in the background.
Okay. I thought that was at my house. I wasn't sure where. Live action.
That was me. Sorry
Live
about
action.
that. Well, I think one of the problems is okay, you've got some guys there who might be able to score inside, but they're never posting up. They're never post-entry passes. You're never trying. They're just picking up the trying to get rebounds, getting strays. I mean, I liked starting Ty Claude. I think brings a lot of energy. But it's an awful different deal than the traditional two-low post approach of Roy Williams, and we knew it would be different. But without Armando Bacot, my goodness, there's just nothing going on there.
Don't know what you got till it's gone, right? Like, man.
Right. There really are hard solutions when it's not this is an NBA team. You'd make a trade.
Yeah, I wish we could the portal. Can we go in the portal in the middle of the year?
I would almost wonder if going really small and putting Drake Powell at the 5 might be one way to go. If you're not getting, collectively the center by committee, had 9 points in the last game. I mean, that's just
it's not gonna work.
That's not sustainable. That's got to change. And now Drake plays taller than his height. He's got a lot of leaping ability, but yeah, that's going to be challenging. And I don't want to be fatalistic, but my goodness, you saw what the matchups were against Auburn, for example. It's going to be worse against Duke.
Yeah.
They give up so much height at every position.
Duke is long this year. That's the one thing I'm saying. Yeah.
That's going to be a nightmare matchup for the Tar Heels. Stranger things have happened in that rivalry. I mean, even in the 8-20 season, Carolina played Duke tough, but I'm telling you, both of those games are going to be rough.
It feels like Hubert struck out on a couple of prospects they thought they were going to get in the portal, and that altered what they were going to do in the post. I do remember him earlier in the year saying they want to be the fastest team in America. They want to, score the most points. And in the beginning, they were doing that. They were averaging like 90 points a game over the first 3 or 4 games, and they were pushing the ball. To your credit, if they go small, this would be by far the smallest Carolina team of my lifetime, even more so than like 2017. That team had like Luke May playing the 5. But Luke May was 6'8". It's still, they had some height. I think was Justin Jackson on that team? No, was he? He'd already left. I think he'd already left at that point. I think Theo Pinson was playing the 5, and they had Luke at the 4, Joel Berry, those guys. But they were kind of long too. Like you kind of could get away with some stuff. And they did have some centers like on the bench, but they were literally bench players. They may have to do that with this roster. Because really all the guys, other than those first 3 guards I mentioned, they're all kind of the same guy. Jalen Winters, like in terms of body type, Drake Powell, Ian Jackson. I know Kate Tyson hasn't worked out the way they originally expected him to step in and kind of be that that outside shooting kind of guy, and he hasn't really done that. So it's like, what are you doing here? So it's like all that stuff combined.
Boy, there's the understatement right there. I mean, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So now I'm going to every game like, well, what are they going to do? Like that Georgia Tech game was way closer than it probably should have been because they had people out injured, and we still struggled to pull away from them. They may have to go small. They may have to push tempo and just one of those 6 seconds or less type offenses where you just get down and shoot, and just get more possessions than the other team because they're not going to out-rebound anybody, and they're not going to out-muscle anybody. And that's kind of, unfortunately, that's kind of the design of the roster. That's just the way that the roster ended up being formed, and some players are underperforming. I would like to see the freshmen get more run at this point then, if that's going to be the case. If you're going to just have to depend on talent, go ahead and run those 5-stars out there. Let them run a lot more than what they're doing. Let Powell start. I think Powell has been the most consistent out of all 3 of them in terms of the freshmen, but Ian Jackson's probably got the highest ceiling in terms of what he can do in terms of creating his own basket. And if they need that to get less pressure off, more pressure off of RJ Davis and whatnot, do that. I'm almost at a point now where I'm like, run this offense through Seth Tribble. He's the one that seems to have the most confidence right now in getting a bucket, no matter who's guarding him. And he seems to be the best defender too. And the kid's 6'3". So I would kind of go that route. But again, they're playing LaSalle. It's on the CW. It's on Saturday at 4:00. And I'm thinking the signing of Bill Belichick to become the next football coach and them increasing that NIL wallet, that's not just a football NIL wallet. I assume that's a University of North Carolina NIL wallet. And whereas you have 80 players on the football team, you only got 15 on the basketball team. You really don't need to pay, a third of them, to really push the needle here. So I'm thinking this might affect UNC basketball as well going forward, the trickle-down effect of Bill Belichick becoming the next head coach at North Carolina. I know you got the press conference at 2:00. Anything you're expecting, anything you want to hear from the university or Bill Belichick in terms of clarity of how this is going to work? Is there anything specific that you would like to ask, or anything that you want to hear from someone else asking in that press conference here later on today?
I'm curious if the reports that there is a agreed upon succession plan for his son are accurate. I'm hoping not, because the university may go that route when Belichick retires, but I don't I don't think that it should be contractually required for the university to do that. So I hope that's not the case. But I'm interested to know. He probably knows a lot of what his staff is going to be. So I'll be interested to hear that and just what his ideas on how to run an NFL program and a college program. It's fascinating.
Crazy times we live in. Shout out to RL. Go follow his work, Tar Heel Tribune online. You can get the latest information. He's heavy in basketball right now, men and women. You said the women start off 10-1, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
That starts. Yeah.
That started in 3 years, number 14, and they open ACC play on Sunday against undefeated and number 25 Georgia Tech, who, by the way, that team was on my flight from Atlanta to Honolulu. So that was
Georgia Tech.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. You went to the Maui. Yeah. So, I mean, lots to look forward to if you're a Carolina fan. And like I said, I'm a Carolina fan. So if anything, that's got me super excited about the potential of how this will affect all Carolina sports with Bill Belichick coming in. We're running out of time. People got to get back to work on their lunch break here. But shout out to RL. Follow him on Twitter. Follow him on Threads. Follow him on Blue Sky. We're both on Blue Sky now. It's the new kind of alternative to X and some of these other ones. You can find us both there. Just type our names in and you can come and follow us there. I know it's just a lot of sports personalities that are media personalities like Mina Kimes and others that have come over to there to kind of start a new thing. So definitely come over to Blue Sky and follow us over there as well for the latest news and notes. But that press conference is later on today at 2:00 with Carolina. Hopefully you get a chance to watch this before that. If not, watch it after and get our opinions on it. And we'll be back next Tuesday.